All right, it is 7 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
I got a motion by Councilmember Pershman and a second by Councilmember Sayre. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. Up next is community comment, where presenters are welcome to address the City Council for matters relevant to the City of Carver's authority. You get 5 minutes. Specific requests for information we can't always respond to immediately, but if that's the case, we will follow up with a presenter sometime after the meeting. The City Council should not be expected to act immediately on your requests. However, we'll follow up accordingly and may schedule items for future consideration. So if you want to come up, introduce yourselves, even though we know you, say your name and address, come on up. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Hello, my name is Frank Eisenbraun. I live in 117 3rd Street East. So I just had a couple of comments. Thank you guys again for letting us sit in on your planning meeting. That was really, really awesome to sit in on that. Thank you for the flexibility, all that cool stuff. So, so I know for the parking ordinance, obviously that's been a thing that's been coming up quite a bit. So I just had a couple things that I wanted to bring up that might help. So the first thing is like with the verbiage for the ordinance, if it could be specific to time of reporting as opposed to just the general. That might help with some of like, because obviously the police need to verify themselves. So if they say, hey, I reported this on the 3rd, and then from that point on, that would help clarify and let citizens know like, hey, even if it's been there for 10 days, if you reported it on the 11th day, like the police themselves have to also verify that that's the case. So that kind of makes it more specific as to the time of reporting. Then the second, and this one kind of goes a little bit more into the weeds of maybe the ordinance itself, but there might be need to be some allowance for people that live in the residence that it's being parked in front of. If it's not necessarily specific enough, if for instance, Christy and I are having a neighborly dispute or something. And
We are neighbors.
Right.
But we don't.
But like, let's say, like for whatever reason, I report, hey, she's been parking in front of her house, whatever. Like the police then, going off the ordinance as written, would say, hey, let's say 5 days from now or whatever. And she's still parking in there, like, even though it's her car and it's her place, like, she would have to move her car or something like that. So even just the police reaching out to the person that owns the property by the street saying, hey, this person, like they've been parking in front of your, is that fine? Sure, that's fine. It doesn't need to be like familiar or anything like that as long as it's the consent of the owner. I don't think there's any reason to like go beyond that. We don't need to go into like familial things or friends or anything like that. The police just say, hey, we got a report of this. Yeah, it's my friend from out of town. And then whatever. Those are kind of the two things that I had for like the parking ordinance thing. I had kind of a side thing that I was noticed about the bridge that's going into the reserve. So I didn't realize how much rock that they would putting in the riverbed. So at least as far as myself, it's pretty concerning because we live on a river bend and that's usually where water tends to propagate during flooding. With that much of the river essentially dammed off, have there been any plans in place or anything like that as far as like the downtime between when that bridge is completed and when like the levee project starts? Because as of right now, that bridge I think is gonna be higher than the current height of the dike. That water's just gonna come into Carver. So obviously last year was a pretty big flood, but I mean, we don't know what this year will be like. So I was just curious. I mean, obviously you guys aren't gonna have the information for that right now, but maybe something to consider as we get closer to May and June. So I think that's all I got.
I think Brent's gonna.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hit
Those
two of the
levees.
three. The rock in the riverbed is a temporary condition.
Okay,
So they're
okay.
just constructing that to get access to the sites and the piles and so on and so
Okay.
forth. The ordinance as written would like the police or the sheriff's office in this instance, they can't go on the reporting party, so they'll have to verify the time, so that's already
Oh, perfect.
built into the ordinance. And then just food for thought, the part of the kind of and this is just, I guess, information, but the folks that are advocating for the ordinance as it's written, the issue of what side of the street the cars are parked on is not an issue for them. Doesn't mean you're right or wrong, I'm just adding that for context for the council.
Cool.
We hit all his questions he had for the bridge. Did we hit all of your questions you had for the bridge?
Oh, you talked about flooding, so the,
Yeah, because like with the rock, like how long, like I guess, I don't know, I guess I didn't realize the rock was temporary.
Yeah.
So,
So it'll be removed as soon as they're done with that phase of construction.
okay. And that's all I got then.
Okay.
So, yeah, cool. Thank you.
thanks for coming, Frank.
Yes,
Just one
thank-
clarification, you are welcome every first and third Monday night to come to our work sessions. Those
They're
are
all
open
open.
meetings
Yeah.
as well. We just have them in there
Yeah.
because it's a little bit more like, almost like family dinner table conversation where you
Yeah.
argue about things.
Right. Yeah, no, that was, no, it was fine. No,
It's-
it's great to see how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
So, so thank you,
Okay.
thank you, council.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I might as well.
Come on.
Hi, I'm Steve Curtis. I live at 4430 Savannah Trail in Chaska. I'm president of the Southwest Metro Chamber of Commerce. Just curious and wanted to talk. I've last year and 4 months I've been at the chamber and talked to all 4 mayors of the cities. Or if you're not familiar, Southwest Metro Chamber is comprised of Chaska, Chanhassen, Carver, and Victoria, and we have 388 members. And the topic of tourism, creating a CVB to merge with the Chamber of Commerce has been talked about for the last year. So I just wanted to introduce myself and say hi. And it's a conversation that has gotten a lot of excitement from at least, a lot of good head nods, like, yeah, that's a cool idea, from all 4 cities. So not sure how it would work yet, looking at contracts. So just wanted to say hi and introduce myself before I ask for more from you. That's all.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, and it's a lodging tax, if you don't know. Right.
Come on up, Craig.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thanks. My name's Craig Shapira. I'm at 1586 Edgebrook Lane. I'm here again about the street parking ordinance. I thought about it a little bit, and here's a recommendation, is that you would allow a car to park just in front of the house of where it's registered to. And so that way everybody would be able to park right in front of their house. And then, or as close as practicable based on the geography. So if somebody was in an apartment down here, they might not be right touching the property, but as close as they can be. This would get after the 2 evils that I had heard last time, where if somebody wanted to be obnoxious and park their huge, trailer in front of the mayor's house or something, right now we don't have any recourse. And so you could get after that problem. And then you could also get after the issue that we don't have any recourse if somebody just abandons a vehicle here. So you could even have it at 72 hours at that point, as long as everybody got to park right in front of their own house. That way, if grandma's living with you, grandma can just leave her car on the road, and it's like a protected space. You have high school kids there at your house, where you have maybe 4 cars in the house at one point. They can leave the cars on the road, so you're not constantly moving cars in and out. The other thing I thought of is, with this, I know you'd register a car typically to your address, and I was wondering, you may have a situation where somebody lives there, but their car isn't registered to that address for some reason. Like, I'm trying to think, like, if college kids were going to the U of M, this is kind of crazy, but, maybe their cars are registered in other states, but they all rented a house somewhere in Carver, right? And so I think at that point they'd have to contact the city and just let them know, hey, we live at this address, and there might need to be some mechanism to register those vehicles to that address so that they could park a car on the road. Again, all I'm asking is that you're able to just park in front of your own house. That way you're not bothering anybody else, but it would just help some of those situations. So I don't know if, I guess if y'all changed the ordinance, I haven't had a chance to read it, but yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm jotting down notes. Thanks, Craig. You put some thought into this. I appreciate it. Yes, come on up, Jenny.
Hello. Jenny Eisenbraun, also at 117 3rd Street East. I haven't seen what the ordinances that you're working on, like that you were discussing tonight, its exact verbiage and what it would include. It does sound like either way there will be an ordinance, and it does sound like you are really trying to find a way to make it. It's not as like the structure of it, from what I understand, it isn't incredibly strict like what you're hoping to propose. I really just wanted to say that I did appreciate how much thought you have put into this, and how much goes into solving some of these oversights. Because when there are legitimate issues that come up, you need to have some way to deal with those things. So I really do appreciate that. I also very much appreciate the less is more aspects of it, because we have lived here for over 7 years, and we've never had an issue. I remember there was one time where a car was parked, and there was like, ooh, whose car is that situation?
She's
Can
looking at me.
imagine what that was about. And it was a situation where we had like a tree that was like really bad, and so we were having it removed. A friend was with us at the time, and they were parked overnight across the street, or I don't even think it was overnight. And it would happen by coincidence, happened to be the same day Christy was moving into her house. I can tell you this, the sheriff is very efficient in getting up, because they were out immediately to check and make sure, because it was out of state plates and all of this stuff. These things happen. These are very human things that happen every day. So as far as like something being like 72 hours or 5 days or 10 days or a week or whatever you decide, I do think, especially in a small community, even if it is growing, there is a lot of efficiency that is happening and checking things out. And there's a lot of just like, hey, check on your neighbor. And those neighborly aspects, I think, of community that I think there's a lot of, well, we don't need an ordinance. And I think that less is more aspect, but there are pieces that I think maybe people haven't seen. Like, why is this ordinance, why does it have to happen? Why does it exist? And I think if there's some transparency, obviously without specifics, like, oh, this person, that person, but like, I think if there is more of an understanding as to this is an oversight and this should be addressed, I think that would be helpful just for that community understanding, and so that everyone feels like they aren't being personally attacked. Because again, in our neighbor, there's never been an issue at all. So I think that's one of those things. I also would agree. I think some people brought up about like if they're a plumber and their truck is outside. Like I think sometimes like if people are complaining about the aesthetics of someone else's life, I feel like that's something that, from my understanding of what you discussed and what you're putting into this ordinance, isn't something that anyone's actually worried about as far as like, if someone were to complain about that, it's like, okay, if routine has to happen, if something is reported, it has to be investigated. But as far as those kinds of pieces of it, and I know my time's running out here, but I just wanted to say that I see you. I appreciate what you're doing. It's not easy. And I think initially there's a lot of fear of like, why are we making these unnecessary changes? And I also see it that's like, okay, there are reasons why things are happening the way they are happening, but I appreciate that you're really trying to find the best solution for things. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you. I appreciate you and Frank and Craig and even Steve for coming tonight. Generally, when we're looking out and kind of to the audience, there's nobody sitting in those chairs. So I appreciate you guys coming. I appreciate you guys opining, and I appreciate you kind of being part of the process. It really is. It is helpful.
And that's from all of us. We genuinely appreciate those different perspectives. Everything you bring to us gets deliberated in some fashion, and it helps to have that. So I'm just going to serve that for the rest of us as well.
Serve popcorn? Okay, let's move on.
Not yours, Steve.
Thank you. There are no presentations or reports tonight. There are no public hearings. Can I get a motion for the consent agenda, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Mock and a second by Councilmember Pershman. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Sorry, when I was in the middle of that, I had one thing. A couple of you said, I haven't seen if the ordinance for parking has been amended. It's always available on the cityofcarver.com. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can see like where the meeting packets are. Otherwise, I think we have a hard copy, a printed copy that's just right outside the doors here. So grab it, take a look. I think it looks pretty similar to what we were considering a couple weeks ago. Okay, sorry to go out of.
Oh, maybe you could make another copy. It looks like they would like, each would like one.
Let's see. Business items, the Carver Creek Lift Station pumps. Mr. Schmidt, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a follow-up item. We last talked about this at the work session on January 3rd. So this is for the Carver Creek Lift Station, which is a sanitary sewer lift station in the city of Carver. It's actually the largest lift station in the city, and it conveys all sanitary sewer flows from the city of Carver to the city limit line at the city of Chaska, where it's ultimately discharged into the Met Council sanitary sewer system that goes to the city of, or the Blue Lake facility in Shakopee, Minnesota. So the pumps we're talking about, this is a 4-pump lift station, and the pumps are at the end of their useful life. We had replacements planned in 2026 in the capital improvement plan, and based on a recent inspection that we had completed on the lift station pumps, it was determined that the pump replacement should be accelerated to the extent possible due to a failure of one of the pumps that we had noticed at that time. And then upon that inspection is when the pump manufacturer recommended that we should try to phase in this replacement or replace all 4 as soon as funding would allow. So that's why I'm here tonight. On the 3rd of January, we discussed getting quotes for the pump replacement. And in working with the finance director, we are able to cash flow the replacement of 2 out of those 4 pumps. So we received 2 quotes for the replacement of 2 of those pumps, with the low quote being received from Minnesota Pump Works of Dundas, Minnesota. This is a company that we've worked with a number of times on other projects in the city, so we are comfortable using them for this replacement project as well. Their quote was in the amount of $150,000, about $950, as you see in the council memo. As I mentioned, we would then be doing the remaining 2 pumps in 2026 as originally planned, when we would have funding available to do that. But at this time, we'd have two new pumps in the lift station, and then the 2 remaining old pumps that are still operating would also be in there. So we'll still have a 4-pump station, but the benefit is 2 of them are gonna be brand new and reliable for that lift station going forward. So the recommendation is to approve the quote as presented, and I'd be looking to take any questions right now.
Did we have, I recall there were a couple of questions, so you've answered one, we can't do all 4, we couldn't cash flow that.
Correct.
And then there was a question about any kind of refurbishment.
Yeah.
Where did we land on that?
So I think the question was possibly Councilmember Mox regarding the warranty for refurbishment of the pumps, and they do not offer a warranty on refurbishing pumps. They would replace all the components, but they don't offer any sort of a warranty for those maintenance
Did they
activities.
give an estimated lifetime of a refurbished pump?
They suggested that just because they are so old that it's probably not worth the money to refurbish it. I don't remember the exact figure. I think it was maybe around $30,000 to refurbish the pumps. So they thought that the money would be better spent to do new, and then you get a longer runway off of the new pumps. So.
Any other questions or motion?
I have one that is just out of curiosity. So the map that you sent in the packet,
if you look up in the newer developments, there's I guess the green dots, we'll call them for now. It looks to me like that says preliminary sanitary meter. Why are there, what is that, and why is it all up in the other new areas?
So that's just, that map is part of the GIS system, the city's GIS. And the lighter green lines and circles are just, those are in the new developments, and it's basically just lines that are in there on a preliminary basis. Since we haven't accepted all those improvements yet, we don't turn them to like official city line work until we've
I
actually
see.
accepted the improvements.
Okay,
So
got you.
that's why it's shown on a preliminary layer.
Okay. Thank you for answering, because I couldn't figure out why they were all centered over there.
Yeah.
And there was like 5 in the rest of the city, so, okay, perfect. I will make a motion to accept the quote from Minnesota Pump Works in the amount of $150,000, $150,947.35 for the replacement of 2 pumps at the Carver Creek Lift Station.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Mock and a second by Councilmember Pershman. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. 8.2, the engine braking ordinance. Mr. Merrick.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So, in your packet is a proposed ordinance regulating engine braking or excessive vehicle noise. This is primarily based on feedback from the sheriff's office related to the enforceability of our existing ordinance. So sometimes commonly referred to as a Jake brake. That's a kind of a type of part, I guess. I'm showing my my deficiencies in stuff
It's a
with the fixing
manufactured-
and stuff.
yeah.
But primarily, this gives our sheriff's office the better opportunity to enforcement when they find someone engine braking. So the ordinance was prepared in consultation with the city attorney, the county attorney's office, and the sheriff's office as it relates to enforcement. We did get some complaints regarding this type of vehicle or operation or behavior, if you will, from the neighborhoods kind of at the bottom of Jonathan Carver Parkway and 6th Street. So that'd be Oak Tree and Lylewood Glen. So happy to answer any questions that you have. Please don't ask me about Jake brakes.
All right. Any questions or a motion?
I would just like to make a comment. So I made this at the work session last meeting. Normally, when it comes to something like this, I would say the gravel pit was here long before these developments came in, so you should have known what you would, what to expect, that you're going to expect to hear truck traffic, and there's going to be dust and dirt and noise and things like that. However, the landscape and the environment has changed since County Road 11 was expanded. We have also included a roundabout at the bottom of that road, which was desperately needed as we're expanding here. We needed that, and that was our option. The stoplight was not ideal in that location. So where I would normally have said, buyer beware, this is what you should have expected when you looked around and you bought your house, we have, and the county has very much changed the environment of the area. There is berms that have been removed along County Road 11, next to some of the townhomes. The braking is obviously more prominent now as they're having to slow down to make the roundabout, because once County Road 11 was redone and widened, it has become even more of a freeway that goes through there to get to 212 from not just the city, but outlying cities from us also. So to me, where I would normally not have gone for this, I think that there's enough changes to the area that I in support of this ordinance. So I just wanted to state that because I think it's important. We have a gravel pit in town, and we have for a long time, so.
All right, I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 02-2025 and ordinance amending section 46-122 of the Carver City Code regarding excessive vehicle noise.
I would second that motion.
Motion by Mayor Johnson, second by Councilmember Pasco. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, this is the next motion that we need is for the publication of the ordinance.
I will do that. Motion to adopt Resolution 104-25, a resolution authorizing publication of Ordinance 02-2025 by title and summary.
Motion by Councilmember Sayer,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Pershman. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Motion passes. All right. Let's see. Now we are going to be talking about sign. Ordinance?
Yes.
Right?
Someone has to decide.
That's where we're at. Okay, for those of you, who are joining us tonight, this is an item from the work session. So this is something that's gonna look very much like it did when we were in the other room. And honestly, the intention was to have that discussion around that table where it's a little bit more informal. It's the first time, not in this case, it's oftentimes the first time we're hearing about stuff, and we're just hashing it through. For this portion of the agenda, because it's a carryover, because we ran out of time for the work session, we're not gonna be making any decisions. We'll be giving direction, we'll be discussing things through, and there we have it. There are your adorable children.
I know, we'll see what happens. There they are. Not every time.
Wait, with the children in the presentation.
Might need a second.
You need me to talk a little longer?
Sure.
Okay.
It popped up and then it went black again. But I can't, it's like not recognizing it. I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's just saying it's not detected though.
Let's do a little of that. Yeah, that's fine too. Let's see if that works, but then. Okay, there we go. Okay,
Don't move your computer.
right.
Yeah.
Don't breathe. But it wants us to be on 5. Let's go back to 1. Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we are discussing the sign code update. We've been working on this for a while. That feels like kind of the tone of the work session and the work we're doing tonight. So the City Council has looked at this information a couple of times. We've had some long discussions about our signs, enforcement, community groups, how we approach signs as a whole, how signs are important, how we want to support community groups that are putting on events in the city. So we've talked about it a couple times in 2024, and we're back tonight with another version with some updates to it. So discussion at the council level has been talking a lot about temporary signs. So we see them all the time throughout the city of Carver. Sometimes they say pork chop dinner this Thursday night, and sometimes they say, let me install an ice rink in your backyard. So we are working on figuring out
Taken down.
how we can support community events while also having a unified enforcement strategy so we can continue to keep the public right-of-way free of distractions, free of signs, allowing people essentially free advertisement throughout the city of Carver. So at our last city council meeting, we talked a lot about commercial signage versus community event signage, enforcement strategy, and the council requested that the city do a little bit of extra work. So that's the work we're going to present tonight. So Brent, Dave, and I have been going round and round on a couple versions, but I think we're at, it sounds so nerdy, but I'm excited about this draft, which I know you all will giggle at, but I feel really good about it, the work that we've done, and then some paths forward that we have. So a couple of headlines that we've had since the last time you saw this. Essentially, the entire code has been rewritten, so if you compare the current, or the proposed version that's in your packet to the current, I hope you see some changes to it. It was a lot of general cleanup for clarity of sections that have been challenging for staff. So after sitting in the chairs on the side of the table for a while, you start to figure out the parts of the ordinance that don't work for us, essentially, that are challenging for us to understand or describe to a property owner or business in the community. So we did quite a bit of cleanup, ease of use. If we didn't know what something meant, we took it out, because how can we enforce something or have rules about something that we don't understand? So a lot of cleanup was done. So we deleted outdated language, removed terms and definitions that were confusing. We streamlined it to hopefully make it more user-friendly, not only for staff, but for the council, community members, residents, people who are looking to provide information to the city of Carver about events they might be having. And of course, we have to keep it all legally defensible throughout. And I will say signs are one of the hottest topics, I would say, in land use. It's one of the most challenging topics to navigate, just thinking about free speech. So Dave has been hard at work making sure that we are still okay with what we're proposing tonight. So I think the headline that is most exciting and new and different is that we are going to, or tonight we'll be discussing a temporary event signage permit and policy that's in the packet. So what this would do is establish a policy and permitting process for temporary signs. It's new for us. It's new for communities in Carver County. I would say we are creating a process specific to Carver that I've talked a little bit with some other people in the field, just saying, we're piloting this. I'll let you know how it goes if you're interested. It might be great. It might crash and burn. I'll let you know in 6 months or so. So again, it's unique to Carver. We're trying to be really thoughtful about supporting community groups that are supporting us at a city level for residents, et cetera.
That's also called trailblazing.
So what we are trying to encourage is that community groups who are hosting events can put temporary signage in specified places via the policy. So what this would do is they would apply for a permit to place signage on certain property. I have locations on the next slide. The previous version of the code did not allow signage on city property, so people would have events coming up on the weekend, they'd put a sign in Depot Park, and then be disappointed when we removed it a day later, just because it wasn't allowed in our current city code. So the proposed does allow for some flexibility there if someone comes in, follows the steps we ask them to take to allow for temporary signage on city property. So the locations would be City Hall, Gazebo Park, Community Park, Carver Station, and Depot Park for 14 days. So those are the common thoroughfares along JCP and coming into the city of Carver downtown. The policy and permit allows for a government entity, business, or nonprofit to apply for the permit for those locations. Application can be made 3 days prior to installing the signs. There's a $10 processing fee and requires permit holder to remove the signage. So what it says essentially is, where are the signs going to be placed? Will you commit to removing them for a $10 processing fee? We also think we can be pretty nimble about it, that if someone comes in 3 days before their event, someone here can take a look at it and hopefully support the community group that's looking to put some signs on city property.
Erin, thank you. I just wanted really quick to make sure that I read that. So the application we made up to 3 days before.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So discussions, the next step, we're looking just feedback from the council. This is new to you, the policy and the permit process. We also have been engaging with the Carver Business Alliance and other community stakeholders through the sign discussion. So we've talked about it through those avenues to get some feedback. The Planning Commission would need to review this since it lives in the zoning code. And then we'd bring it back to City Council at a regular meeting should you choose to move forward with some feedback tonight. And one of the best parts about this ordinance is that we can try it. We can revise it if we need to, but it is something that is new and different for Carver, and I think could be a way for us to be successful, allowing community groups and other agencies to put signs on city property. I'll open it up for discussion.
And just one question right off the bat. Maybe I missed it if it was in the packet, but is there a limit to the number of signs, like if we put at each location per event?
No.
Okay. I would like to see that.
Okay.
I don't necessarily want to see 40 signs in front of the fire station for a pork chop dinner or whatever. I don't think you need that many to get the job.
I'm going to counter that with, I don't want 40, but if you look at the size of, let's say, Community Park or, oops, I'm not on the slide with all of the names of where we're at again. Community Park, even up by the Park and Ride,
Carver Station.
Carver Station, I'm sorry, I'm just having such a moment here. Okay, so anyways, we have, those are big expanses of parks, right? So if we had one, I'm just gonna use Community Park. If you have one on the 6th Street side and one on the trail side of Carver County Road 11, that to me doesn't seem excessive because there's big expanses of area. Now, if Gazebo Park also has 2. I wouldn't have a problem with one on 3rd and one on Broadway. I would have a problem with 40 of them. But I think that when we have these kind of double-sided corners, that it makes sense that we allow for more than one.
I'm okay with that, but I think we need to modify it. Yes.
Sorry to jump in,
Yeah,
Mayor and
no.
Council. I was just gonna point out, there's a size limitation of 6 square feet for this, and then there's also, the provision that you can't have more than 3 signs
Oh.
at any one location,
Okay,
at any point in time. And then there's a priority. You know, first is emergency stuff for the city. Second would be city-sponsored events. Third priority would be other businesses, other government entities, nonprofits.
Okay.
So there's never going to be more than 3 at one location at a time under this policy as drafted.
great. That's,
But that is not 3 per entity, so I'll just use the Lions. So that's not 3 per Lions. That's gonna say, if the Lions have something the same weekend as the Art Wander, as the same weekend as whatever, then if the Lions come in and take 2 signs, then whatever other else comes in only gets 1. Or if the Lions say, no, we want all 3 signs, and it's approved, now Art Wander can't have one, or Christmas in downtown Carver can't have one, or whatever it is.
And we could go to 3 signs per organization. So the Lions could have 3, the Art Wanderer could have 3, but up to your discretion.
I'm happy with, I'm actually okay with 3, but 2, as long as, for me, as long as we can get 1 on each kind of,
let's do 2. I'm
Roll away.
envisioning there being like 4, well, even if there are 3 events that weekend, then we've got 6 signs.
So
And I
2
think-
per entity.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Does anyone feel differently?
No, that sounds reasonable.
Okay. That was my question. I'm not really ready to go through everything else. If somebody else wants to have the floor, they may.
that was one of my main notes, was to ask about the number per group, so I can cross that off. Messaging priority, I'm gonna use SEMO Days, because that's a real thing, and it's a real thing for me, so our sign for SEMO Days is longer, there's a banner that's longer than the 6 feet, or what we have in here. Is it because that is a city coordinated also celebration, does that exempt in here, or we need to have new banners made to?
Does that get a large event permit?
It does.
No,
Oh, no, wait, that doesn't, because it's city, sorry.
we can exempt.
Well,
Because that's a city joint.
Isn't it already exempt because it's a city event?
from what? Sorry to,
From requiring everything.
Is Steamboat Days signage covered by this permitting process that we're discussing right now, or is it exempt? I think is the question, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
we can talk about a way to make sure that city sanctioned or sponsored signage won't fall into this category.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the intent. The city is
We're not,
gonna apply for a permit for itself to put signs on its own property.
No, and I was just thinking, because I give an event packet, that to me that was a permit, but no, okay, good, I just wanted to make sure that that was clear, that the SEMO Days is outside of that.
the point of the priority is to say, if there's signs that are, from an emergency standpoint, really critical, we're not gonna let other types of signs maybe move, they're not gonna be allowed to move those signs for their events and do things that Public Works might not be okay with, or the sheriff's office might not be okay with, just from a messaging standpoint, so. But we can make sure to get that steamboat
Language in there? Okay.
language, yeah.
And I asked the question about the 3 days before, can we make sure it says up to 3 days? I think it's just more clear.
Sure.
Another question about the Carver Business Alliance, have we talked to them through this process, or this will be going to them?
So we got quite a bit of feedback from them about downtown signage, where it would be helpful, how they approach signage. So this information, they haven't seen the policy yet, but they would look at it at our next meeting.
Okay, but so you've gained feedback from them already, that's already included in this?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for now.
Kayla?
No questions.
Alright.
Chrissy covered the things that I had issues with.
I just have a question on the permitting. Can it be done online, or would they have to come in? I know it asked for quite a few things, and I do have a question on what copy of stress sheets.
I would say yes, we can make it an online process, like we can do zoning permits
Okay.
online, so I would say that could be something we could do. And then what was your question?
So it's on page 3 of 10 in the packet, it's page 11. So, permits number 3, then it goes down to 1 through 9. 9 is copy of stress sheets and calculations.
So that would be for a building permit.
That's the.
But it's in the
difference, and
ordinance?
That's probably something
Okay.
that they cleaned
Yeah.
up that was hard to understand.
Okay.
Well, like a stress load is how much weight
Where might-
something
oh,
can
so there's
hold.
no-
So
Okay.
if it
I
was like
wondered if it just
a signpost
typo
for a
or just-
building permit, yeah.
To be updated, yeah, okay.
And that's a different kind of permit. So that's a sign
Yeah.
permit. The permit that I think maybe we were thinking,
Oh,
asking
like
about
a-
was for the city-owned property policy, which is a totally separate process.
Okay.
I assume you still need the
That's where I got thrown off.
spreadsheets and calculations
We-
for.
Absolutely need a stress load calculation for a sign, but not for a temporary sign.
Okay.
So it's something we reviewed as a building permit for a sign permit.
Thank you.
Eric?
No, I don't have any more questions. I think Christie asked what I was concerned about too. I'm really happy that we are finding a way to promote city events within the city when we didn't really have a mechanism for that. So it's been a lot of work for the folks that are in the room. It wasn't, this is going back a number of meetings in 2024. So thank you for the effort to get it this far. I know Planning Commission will have, will vet this again, but I think it's great.
Just one more question. You mentioned that city signage is exempt. That will include the flushing fire hydrants today kind of messages.
Yes.
Okay. I think I've said this before. It took us a while to get here, and Eric famously called me out because when he suggested something very similar like this, I didn't care for it. And then Brent said it, and I loved it. So Eric, I'm sorry. So Brent gave me a really, Brent gave me a really, Eric gave me a really, really hard time and called me. He was like, "Hey, do you remember 2 weeks ago when I kind of said the same thing, and now Brent's saying it, and you love it?" So, well done. Thank you for thinking outside of the box, and appreciate everybody's work on this. This has been a lift. So. I am hearing, I just want to confirm that I think we're in a good place to move this on in the process.
Yes.
Yep.
Do you have what you need from us? Yep, thank you. All right, any council updates from you, Brent? That was already in the work session.
I just want to do a brief thing on the parking ordinance, and I'll ask, when we put the packet together for the March 3rd meeting and do all the publications for the, the residents on how they can advocate for their position. The one thing I'm going to ask the city attorney to prepare a memo on is, and a couple of people have mentioned it tonight and in the past, this a concept of, parking in front of like the property that you own. And I'm not attempting to take down an idea, but I think that's a very complicated issue with a lot of unintended consequences. Ultimately, the street section in front of your property isn't yours, that's public right away. And so I've dealt with this in other situations where a business is in the downtown and they'd like to put, parking for Carver Bakery, only. Well, it's a public street, and so the ability for the city to effectively regulate who on a public street can park in a certain spot on that public street is a sticky wicket, if you will. And so I'm going to ask the city attorney to take some time to flush that out, because I think undoubtedly, because people are creative and want to try to come to a resolution that has some harmony, they're going to come up with those types of ideas. I don't think that that's practical, and I think the city attorney, once he has an opportunity to kind of review that, is going to come to that same conclusion. And so I just wanted to kind of get that out there and get ahead of that as far as messaging goes, because I think that'll come up quite a few times over the next couple of weeks or month, I guess, until we get to the meeting. And frankly, there are folks that as opinions vary, that are still not satisfied with this concept of a car being parked, even if it's not directly in front of their property, if it's on the other side of the street. And so because everyone deals with parking, there's gonna be a whole range of opinions. So my goal, or our team staff goal here, is to provide you with like kind of the rules of the game, and then that spectrum of decision-making that you can make within those rules. But I think we're gonna do our best to prepare you for some of these things. It doesn't mean there could be a solution out there that we're not thinking of, but some of the things that maybe seem the most basic and common sense might not be able to be implemented as it relates to public street parking. So I just wanted to kind of get that out there and let that sit in the space. So I'm gonna move on to the Economic Development Commission stuff, or authority.
Do we have to adjourn?
I just wanted to say like one thing before you get
Oh,
into that.
sure.
Just because the last time, as you can see, we did this in like 2014. So there are.
I know, I was reading the minutes, like,
And Dave,
what is he gonna say?
the city attorney can kind of jump in, but effectively, there are powers that are invested into an economic development authority that a city council couldn't do, and so the city's tradition has been that they have an economic development authority, but the city council serves as the economic development authority. So we haven't really talked about this, so that's why there's these extra couple steps of adjourning as the city council and then convening as the economic development authority. Am I hitting all the right notes, Dave?
Yes, generally you are, Brent, and mayor and council. So what I would encourage you to do is go through your communications too. I mean, treat the council meeting as its own thing, wrap up, adjourn, and then you will call to order a meeting of the Carver Economic Development Authority. Two totally separate legal entities that have different statutory powers. Although you are the same 5 people, you take one hat off and put the other one on when you want to do things like consider downtown restoration loan programs and other things. So I think Brent described it accurately, and I think the first step should just be to get through the council meeting, and then you can convene as the EDA.
All right, let's do council updates. Eric?
A couple updates from Southwest Transit. And I think we've talked about this before, but just so there's awareness again. The standard ride fee for a Carver resident is $5. Seniors get a discounted rate of 3. Disabled veterans are free, as well as children under 5. So the city still pays their co-share in this, but it's a reduced rate for the rider. One of the things that we talked a lot about, and this is over a year ago, was the reduction of Southwest Prime to the airport. That service is being sunsetted by Southwest Prime in favor of a regularly scheduled hourly departure from the Southwest Transit Station in Eden Prairie. So there are a schedule of times a day that'll be an hourly service. The range is from, I think, $2.50 to $3.25, depending on when you go. And there's the intent is to offer overnight parking, covered overnight parking in their ramp at a rate of $5 a day. So another option for somebody who needs to park their car long term. So I think it's a really great option for getting to and parking at the airport. So maybe we look to publish that in the newsletters and have some awareness.
Has that been an option for a while?
The parking?
Yeah.
No, this is new. In fact, there's discussion is how to mechanize that so you can pay for it in the app, because that doesn't exist yet. Yeah.
What is the city's co-share of Prime?
$12 a ride.
Okay, so they're paying, so it's $5 for the general rider?
Yeah, we still get to pay our portion of it,
Yeah,
but
and it
the
was-
rider gets, if you're a senior citizen, if you're a child, if you're a disabled.
Sure. I just like to state that because people think that Southwest Prime just runs at $5 a ride, and it doesn't. So the city taxpayers, we, as a council, we allocate money each year to pay that other part of the fee so that folks can take Prime when it's needed. And that is why we voted as a council to remove the airport part of it, because we didn't feel that citywide taxpayers, community-wide taxpayers should be paying to subsidize vacations and vacation rides to the airport. So it was definitely something that we wanted to keep. I'm glad that they have found a different, Lori, bless you, that we have found a different way to find a ride that is cheaper and shorter to the airport. Not shorter, I guess, than you don't have to park your car, but at the airport. So I'm glad that there's a different opportunity now, and that they have sunsetted that. Just personally, because it gets it's a little daunting when we hear, why aren't you paying for a ride? Why can't we take Prime to the airport? Well, because the rest of the community is paying for that at $12 while you're paying $5.
That's absolutely correct, and if you really dig into it, we're paying 12, but even that doesn't cover the total cost. If you were to look at the actual cost per rider on Prime, it's significantly higher than that, and that only gets covered by some motor vehicle taxes and grants that are received through Southwest Transit. So I am really happy that they've expanded this service. Now you've got scheduled hours to go, and it's available on the Southwest Transit website, but again, we can publish something in the newsletter.
But I do want to make it clear that I am happy that we have Prime, and that as a council, we have decided to fund that. I think it's an important asset in our community for those who need it. Sorry, I'm
you get on
always
your
have to,
airport
like,
soapbox.
I have to get on that one.
Love it
every
when you get
time.
on your airport soapbox. Lori.
It happens.
I don't have any updates as far as meetings. I do want to call out something that was on the consent agenda, and I'm sorry, I was going to ask you first. You may already be going to highlight this
Probably
too.
planning on it, yeah.
But family of Ben Klemick gave a donation, and that is going to our City of Carver Fire Department. So I just think that's very admirable, and thank them.
Just to add on it, because you brought it up, and it was in my notes, Ben was a resident just outside of town in the township, and he passed away recently. I read his obituary, and it said something like, he always stressed how important it was to tell people that you love them, which was just like, oh, it was really sweet. So appreciative of the donations, and just what a great way to memorialize him. So, thank you. Yes. Chrissy?
I don't have anything else. HPC is canceled for this month. And Eric, I know you went to the one last month for me, so I appreciate that. I don't know if you have any comments. I'm putting you on the spot right now from a month ago, but thank you for covering that for me.
So I actually really enjoyed sitting in on that meeting. It was a debate about the material a front door can be made out of. But it wasn't some back and forth there. I think the challenge is a period correct looking door which fit the structure but made out of a modern material. So you had some opposing opinion there. But the reality is it's the fiberglass door was actually the more expensive option to make it look period correct. And I think that's what we do care about, is that it fits into the community and the history of the community. So interesting work that is done there. And I got a little bit of an appreciation for the care and consideration that goes into making sure that the homes and businesses that have been around for, 175 years,
I have to count.
are preserved in a way that keeps the downtown with that historic look and history. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer.
That's all right. And we're at 165. I had to do the math in my head. But no, I appreciate it. Thank you going to that meeting for me.
Yes, I'm attending the League of Minnesota Cities new elected leaders training this weekend, so I'll be there Friday and Saturday. Seems like it's going to be a good time. I've already started my pre-education, all of the slideshows and everything, so I'm really looking forward to that. Otherwise, no other updates at this point.
haven't told you this yet. I'm going to be down there on one of the panel
Oh,
discussions. So I'll
wonderful.
see you down there on Saturday. And thanks for the reminder, because I was like, oof, that's this weekend.
It is.
Let's see, just quick updates for me. On January 23rd, speaking of the league, they had their legislative preview webinar. They always do a really good job, and there's always the asterisk of, even though it's recorded and you guys can go on lmc.org and find it, sometimes things change a lot since then. But just a really good overview, and kind of they do a little bit of looking into their crystal ball and also introducing the staff and kind of what focus areas they're all on. Let's see, I attended the Carver County Historical Society's annual meeting on January 26th. Maybe taking half a step back, on Saturday, January 25th, the fire department had a live practice burn, which was such a great opportunity for the fire department to get in there and be running some real life scenarios. Let's see. Boy, I am all over the place. LMC.org has lots, if you guys have been listening to the news, there have been lots of executive orders coming out of Washington, D.C. And it's a flurry of them, and they're a little bit hard to understand. I know one night this week I texted Brent and said, if there aren't going to be any federal grants, what does that mean to the $2.5 million that we've been promised for our levy? What does that look like? That has maybe been rescinded, maybe not. But what I'm getting to the point is that lmc.org has a whole page on executive orders to kind of answer those types of questions and more. What does this mean for our city? How is this going to be handled? And they kind of have a focus team of researchers and attorneys and lobbyists and communicators who are all kind of working together on this to keep that as up to date as possible in what will probably continue to be a really fluid situation.
Do you have any updates for us on where that stands for us right now?
I think we're okay right now because it was kind of walked back the following day, and there was a lawsuit on that immediately after.
Okay. So there's no grandfathered in anything on this? Okay.
I don't think so, and that's my concern. You see all this stuff in the news and you think, whatever you might think of it, but then that was my concern is, we have 2.5 million reasons to be concerned about this if we weren't to get that money. So,
Does that put us, so if we're starting projects with the levy, does that put us in danger of starting something here but not being able to complete it, or we just can't get started on a piece of it?
we have always said that we will scale this project to the money that we have, and you guys might want to reel me in, but we still have $6.5 million from the state,
Right.
And then some smaller amounts in our local match. So I think that we can do a phase.
Okay. Like the plan that we had phased here, do we think we're in good spot?
Well, the order was retracted, so it's moot at this point.
Okay. There we go.
And just hope it doesn't get put back in. Let's see, two more quick things. Trying something new this year, and in December I did a trial run. Former St. Cloud Mayor Dave Kleiss did something where I think it was monthly, I'm not gonna be able to keep up that cadence, but had constituents over to his home for dinner. I did a dry run of it in December with some folks, and it went okay, and nobody got food poisoning. So I put in the February newsletter that I'm going to start doing that, inviting small groups for a super informal conversation over dinner. And I spoke to former Mayor Kleiss, and he said that he got the idea from Marnita's Table, which kind of works off of the theory of if you can share a meal with somebody, like that kind of breaks down barriers and makes things a little bit more casual and easier to talk to people. I think we've all seen nastiness on social media with people who won't say things about you that they wouldn't say that they would never say to your face. So I just think it could be that nobody's interested. It could be that a bunch of folks are interested, and I've got to do a bunch of them, which is honestly my sincerest hope. But I just wanted to mention that.
Will you publish the menu on the newsletter?
So former Mayor Kleiss did chili. I am going to do the same chili, just something that I can dump into the crock pot. It's going to be a white chicken chili. I can get you my recipe for that. Okay, finally, got a kudos from a resident that I want to share with everybody. They said, I love those solar-powered speed limit signs on 4th Street and 6th Street. When I'm on my way home from work, my brain can be racing. This individual's a teacher. And I forget that I'm no longer going up the hill and that I should take my foot off the gas. The sign's working for me lately, and I haven't had to slow down because my habit is built. Thank you to the council for implementing this and making our neighborhoods safer and aware. So sometimes we don't get the kudos.
Somebody's happy, that's so
I know.
nice.
That's why I wanted to share it with you guys and share it very publicly. I think that's it for this meeting. I will make a motion to adjourn our regular meeting.
I'll second.
Motion by Mayor Johnson, second by Councilmember Pershman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. Right away afterwards, I will call the Carver Economic Development Authority meeting to order. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
And I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the December 21st, 2015 CEDA meeting.
Motion by Councilmember Mock,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Pasco. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. Mr. Merrick, let's talk about the downtown restoration loan program for the doghouse.
Thank you. So the Downtown Restoration Loan Program was created probably about 15 years or so ago. We've done 3 projects out of the program. The first 2, the former Carver Floral did a pretty major project. That was a traditional loan that was repaid back to the city. We also did a forgivable loan back in 2015 to Harvey's for a roof and accessible ramp project. You have an application tonight from Brian Chillman, kind of owner of the doghouse. The property owner is Brian Charles Properties LLC. But in detail, the application is for a $2,500 forgivable loan, which needs to be matched for the project, which was easily done with a siding and window project done on the property. We're asking for some program amendments. Just in working with Brian and just the infrequent times that we do this program, there was a miscommunication between Brian and I related to when he needed to apply. And so rather than being that traditional bureaucratic, you didn't get the application in on time, we connected with the city attorney and asked if there was a way that we could get the program amended so that Brian could make application and then go through the program. We have an application deadline just so that we don't have a project that's done and then a year or 2 later, all of a sudden, grant funds or loan funds are being requested. As far as like the implementation of the program, if the EDA were to adopt it, Nick Jorgensen, the building official, kind of runs the program. So the city pays out based on progress on the project. So at 50%, 50% can be paid, which we'd probably be able to do in pretty short order. But then once all the project particulars are completed, then the full amount can be paid. So, for example, and all the improvements were approved by the Heritage Preservation Commission, but they asked for window grids. So, for example, the window grids would need to be installed before the full. I guess in this instance, probably the remaining $1,250 of the $2,500 was dispersed to Mr. Chillman. I'll defer to the city attorney on the language amendments that he's proposing to kind of make this legal.
Thank you, Brent. And I guess you're the chair of the EDA. You're not the mayor.
Not big on titles.
Chair and EDA commissioners. So there's just a couple pretty straightforward proposed changes to the program. The language before said you can't make application if you started your project. In this case, the project is underway. Technically, we wouldn't be able to even be sitting here considering this if that rule remains in place. And so the first proposal is to simply tweak the program to allow applications to be submitted to the City of Carver staff if there is, let me just pull up the language here, it's a long packet. believe the term is just for good cause. Yeah, showing of good cause. It's a little hard to see. I don't know why I had it as red, but it's, the language is on the top of page 4 in your packet materials of the 18 pages. So it'll say, applications will be accepted for projects that are in progress but not yet completed upon a showing of good cause for the late application. In this case, there was the incident of communication with staff that didn't allow the application to be submitted on time. I did make one other very straightforward under eligible improvements on page 1 or page 3 of your packet, page 1 of the program. You can see we lined out or in progress just to suggest and align that an application can technically be made and submitted if a project is in progress. But again, that assumes the showing of good cause. So that's the very minor program change that is before you. I think first consideration for the EDA is, are you okay with that? If so, you can make a motion to approve those changes as presented in your packet. And then you can move on to the application itself. If for any reason you choose not to make those changes, I guess the direction would be to not accept and not process the loan that was submitted by Doghouse. But I'll let you discuss it and have that. If you have questions, let me know about them, and we can talk through them. But it's pretty straightforward. So.
And this language insulates us from somebody coming out and saying, well, I did this 3 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there has to be some line in the sand, if you will. Yeah.
And as the liaison for the HPC, we want our businesses downtown to make the renovations and to improve their buildings. So to me, this just makes absolute sense. So if no one else has comments, I'll make the motion to amend it.
We have a motion from Councilmember Mock.
Oh, I'll say the whole motion for you. I just didn't want to jump over.
Well, no,
you
I have questions.
Okay, but I'll make it to start.
Yeah,
then.
you can make it, and we can do it over.
Motion to amend the downtown restoration loan program guidelines to authorize the limited acceptance of applications for projects that have already commenced. Do I keep going?
No.
Into the next,
No.
right, okay, there's an and on there, that's why. There's an and on the end of that. So
I'll second.
We've got a motion by Councilmember Mock and a second by Councilmember Sayer. For further discussion, I just have a couple of questions. Just so that I understand it, it sounds like this is only repayable if the doghouse is sold. Is that kind of the only condition? Or if he doesn't complete the work?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's only if it's sold within the next 5 years. So
Sure.
every year,
Yeah.
20% will be forgiven, and then after 5 years, you're going to get that full 100%.
Okay.
And so the subsidy agreement that was included in your packet tonight actually is recordable. It will be signed and then recorded against the property because we would need some mechanism to know as the EDA if that property is sold and would be able to inform any potential buyers or a title company looking at a sale that this is out there, and they would contact the EDA and say, what do we owe? Because they would theoretically have to pay that back.
Okay. Thank you. And then I think my next question is for you, Brent. Just, it's a procedural question. Could we have another EDA meeting so that we can approve the minutes from this one, so that we're not waiting another 10 years in between meetings?
Well, then you'd have to approve the minutes from that meeting.
Oh. I didn't think of it that way. Okay.
Never
mind.
I hope they enjoy this 10 years from now and they can come back.
The solution, and I talked to Brenda about this. Luckily, there was really well-kept minutes that were of record from that 2015 meeting. I think it's okay for situations like this to have draft minutes prepared and on file. If anyone would ever come back to the city, in this case the EDA, and say, can we see the minutes from that meeting? Staff will have them. They wouldn't technically be approved because, to Brent's point, you would just have to keep having meetings. However, there might be some, I'm going to have a discussion with staff about the EDA itself, and there are some housekeeping matters that typically you'll want to do once or twice a year with your EDA, just to remind everybody of its existence and to check a couple statutory boxes, and that would typically happen like every January.
Okay.
Just at the beginning of the year. Very quick meeting to appoint the chair and inform folks what's going on, and then you have to adopt a budget, which you'll have a very minimal budget because it's a very inactive EDA, but there are things that EDAs do want to get in the habit of doing. So I don't think we'll be hopefully meeting again for another 10 years,
Okay.
but that's to be continued, I guess, that
Okay.
discussion. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
I'll make another motion. I'll put that "and" in place now. That's on the first one. Motion to approve a $2,500 forgivable loan to Brian Charles Properties LLC under the Downtown Restoration Loan Program, conditioned upon the execution of the corresponding note and subsidy agreement.
Motion by Councilmember Mock,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Frischman. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. And I think all we need is a motion to adjourn.
I would make a motion to adjourn the Carver Economic Development Authority meeting.
Motion by Councilmember Pasco,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Frischman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for hanging with us for so long.
This next one for another option. Read the correspondence.